and welcome to Unreligiously. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be reacting to one of my favorite crossover episodes ever. This is Paul and Morgan's 24 Hours with Girl Defined, which they end up spending the very tail end of this with Bethany and Dave, who I've done an explicit deep dive on my channel before. This actually all came out right after this interview, so you can see how these ideas were already percolating, how Dave and Bethany are talking about things, and how different that actually is from what Paul and Morgan believe. Per usual, Paul and Morgan are not as open-minded as they think that they are, and per usual, I am surprised by a lot of things, even though I shouldn't be. This is 24 Hours with Paul and Morgan, Bethany Beal, Dave, Girl Defined. Let's go.
The division between Christians online is immense. In this series, we will press into tough conversations, disagree with love, and humanize the person behind the screen.
Join us as we discover the real lives of some of the most influential Christian figures.
Hey, we're Paul and Morgan, and we can't wait for you to watch episode 2 of 24 Hours With. We had the opportunity to spend the day with Bethany from Girl Defined. Bethany runs Girl Defined with her sister Kristen. Their goal is to help modern girls live out God's timeless truth for womanhood.
They've received a lot of hate for their videos and strong stances. Is some of the criticism warranted? Are Kristen and Bethany legalistic Christians living in an echo chamber? What about the Christians they've started to upset?
We'll get an honest look into Bethany and Dave's marriage and the challenges of living in the spotlight while seeing some things very differently. This video is loaded. Get ready.
Modesty. Have your views changed?
They do want to see our relationship fall apart. Sure. Even though they might be like, we hope you and Bethany stay together, they don't really hope that.
I mean, the pushback for growing probably comes more from Christians.
I saw a video, 33 million views, reacting to you guys.
Girl Defined.
Girl Defined.
Girl Defined.
The new Girl Defined video.
It is conceivable that the haters are willing to tell you things about yourself that nobody else is willing to tell you.
What is happening?
What? Oh! We were painting very black lines.
I wish that y'all would more befriend people rather than choosing to view them as the kind of the bad ones.
I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to this at all.
A lot of these Christians act like I'm literally like writing an erotic novel. Did he really shock y'all?
Yes.
Yeah.
They've shocked us.
I don't know. Neither of us just feel like we have to think the same to have like a really amazing marriage.
Are you still processing what just happened? Okay, let's find where's the story of David.
You gotta know when to hold up, know when to fold, when to fold up. Modesty? Did you already talk about modesty? No? Okay. Men's modesty.
I mean, men's modesty in our household has come a long way. There was like not that long ago, maybe like 2 years.
I love how she's saying that men's modesty in their household has come a long way so genuinely, and I'm not making fun of it. I love that she's being honest here, but it does just crack me up because it's like, growing up Christian, I do think that if women's modesty is going to be such a big conversation, then I do think that male modesty should also be part of the conversation too. That being said, it just really isn't part of the conversation when you grow up evangelical. Very rarely do people talk about men's modesty because the idea is that men are these visual creatures and so they can't help themselves from lusting or stumbling, and so you're supposed to cover yourself to help prevent him from stumbling. There's other reasons as well behind women who would want to dress modestly for religious reasons. It's not all for men. There definitely is not a big conversation around equality here, or really even an acknowledgement of the fact that women are visual and sexual as well, just as much as men are. Because of that, they don't really believe that men could make women stumble, if that makes sense. Sex is something that they kind of believe almost like women have to be coerced into.
I didn't want Dave to leave the house or like work out without a shirt on, swim without a shirt on. I just thought like, I don't want ladies seeing my man's big muscles. But it's like a change of perspective. It's more like he does it. It's okay to be an attractive person. You don't have to like hide your body completely, like, to be modest. Not like necessarily where you're just like...
That's a really big shift that Bethany has made, because they didn't used to believe that. And for her to say, look, just because you are attractive doesn't mean that you need to necessarily, like, cover it up just so that nobody's attracted to you. There has to be some sort of level of normalized standards. And I've shared this story with you guys where when I was probably in, like, the 6th grade or something, I went to Bible camp, and at Bible camp, they asked me to go put a t-shirt on over my tankini. And I asked them why, because it met all of the requirements, and I basically, like, I dressed so modestly anyway at that time. I wasn't allowed to wear bikinis. I was a homeschooled kid. Whatever, I didn't meet the standards, so I asked them why, and they said, well, you know, it's because the top is too revealing. And I pointed to another girl with just a different body type than me, and I said, well, what about her? She's allowed to swim, and she's wearing literally the exact same swimsuit as me. And they said, well, Lauren, she's not going to make men stumble, or something along those lines. I can't remember. I told this story once before, and I feel like it was, for some reason, it was more fresh in my mind then. But they said something that was along those lines where they were like, well, basically, she's allowed to wear it because we don't think that boys would be attracted to her, and we think that boys would be attracted to you, and therefore you need to put a t-shirt on to cover it up. And I remember feeling, like, partially humiliated, but then also really angry for this other girl who was beautiful and who basically they had shamed because of her weight, and decided that none of the other boys would find her attractive. It was very bizarre and weird. And so I'm glad to see that it's not like that as much in the girl-defined sphere anymore. Like, if it's attractive for her, or if it's modest enough for her, it should be modest enough for me. And of course, there is always going to be an argument about just, like, you know, dressing the body that you have. Like, if I just have a certain body type, so I might have to wear higher cut stuff because it's still gonna look lower cut on me. Things like that. And that's totally valid, but, like, in my example, this girl and I mean, it's a kid's swimsuit. Like, it's not intended to show cleavage. And so we, therefore, were showing the exact same amount of cleavage and body in this swimsuit. So it wasn't like they were making a judgment call where it was like, this just doesn't fit you guys the same way. So I'm glad to see that they're coming away from that, because I do think that it can be really harmful. And I just think that it's really unnecessary. Like, why do we need to sexualize everything so much? I think that it does the opposite of what Christians are generally trying to do when it comes to purity culture and modesty culture. And I think that it actually just kind of makes people a little bit more obsessed with this idea of modesty and, like, doing things in the exact right way instead of just, like, living their lives.
Like, going around naked, but, like, just because you are attractive doesn't mean that's a problem. So now he runs and swims shirtless. Well, we'll get some tacos. It's like a random coffee shop, but it's like one of the best, like, actual coffee spots.
2 more bacon, egg, and cheese on flour.
I also get a bacon, egg, and cheese.
Bacon and cheese on flour or under cheese?
Flour. What's your name? Victoria. Paul loves kombucha, and I want to please my husband.
Good, man.
He does not want it.
I'll go 7.25.
Wow.
Is that real?
What? He's questioning
No.
my scoring?
No. I'm serious. Like, do you do that as a joke, or do you really, in your brain, you're
does
like,
this
it's
seem-
not a 7.5?
Does this seem like a joke to you, Dave?
I feel like Dave is the first person that I've ever seen call out Paul, and I kind of love it. And he does this throughout where he makes these little quippy comments, but I like them because they're not actually like mean-spirited. Like, he's kind of razzing him a little bit and kind of pointing out to Paul, like, relax, dude. But he's also not being a dick. He's not bullying him. He's not being rude or anything like that. And so I just get a kick out of it. Honestly, Dave at this point is the most progressive out of all of them, and so it kind of is like everybody against Dave is what it feels like. And I mean, Bethany is a little bit more understanding, obviously, because it is her husband, but ultimately Dave is kind of on his own little island, and so I don't know. I don't feel too bad about his, like, light razzing in this setting, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, super hot for you.
Super hot. This is so good. I got the carnitas and like an Angus one. If I'm rating these, even though Dave's making fun of me, both of these tacos.
I am making fun of you.
Both of these tacos are in the high 8s.
High 8s, come on!
That's a great score. Here's a genuine inquiry, and I just want to hear your reaction to it. You, from talking to you briefly, would be the type of Christian that I would push back on. Like,
All the time. Well, you're not the only one.
say like, yeah, we started hanging out, and I was like, hey, Dave, it's the cussing, man. Like, why are you cussing? And then
I don't really know that I feel like it's his job to call out cussing in somebody else, especially an adult who he's meeting for the first time for like a day. Feels not like his place. But it is something that I do want to point out, because I noticed that Girls Gone Bible, they did a podcast episode with George Janko, and they also tried to like convict him, which only the Holy Spirit can convict if you believe in Christianity. Stand if you personally don't want to use that type of language, if you feel convicted about it or it's just not your style, that's totally fine. I don't care about that. I don't have a problem with personal convictions, but I also don't like random adults trying to give other adults feedback on behaviors, especially when they're behaviors that are not harming anyone else. Like, if Dave was driving like crazy and like abusing substances and making, you know, Bethany cry the whole episode, I could see Paul at that point saying, all right, we're gonna maybe just say something to them. But that's not the case. But the idea, if you guys caught it in the beginning of this when they did their intro, is to really expose who these people really are and build greater understanding and find more commonality, which is, I think, a great goal. But then it does seem to me in this episode like they do a lot of judging and like they're really not trying to find common ground. It feels like they are just trying to understand why they don't believe like them. Like, what led you astray that made you not believe the right thing?
I maybe would quote a Bible verse like, let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I didn't hear what he said. Did he just cuss at me?
Shut up, mother.
Oh, wow.
When someone says, well, what does the Bible say? I typically will hear a certain type of what I would call biblicism underlying that, a theory of the Bible that often we just take as self-evidently true. This is what the Bible is. A lot of this stuff is actually, it's more difficult when you actually get down to the conversations, I have found. It's easy for each side, oh, you're a fundamentalist, oh, you're a progressive. It's easy to kind of hurl like, oh, progressives are just relativists, or fundamentalists are just dogmatists.
There's no shot that Paul knows what a relativist or a dogmatist is. I'm just going to say that right there. I think what is interesting about this to me is that Dave very clearly is the most knowledgeable about these topics, about Christianity included. He just is landing somewhere different than them, and I think that makes them even more uncomfortable, particularly someone who seems to be very ego-driven like Paul, because they can't really argue back. They just can say, well, I disagree with you, or, well, I don't think that's what God is saying. And it's like, okay, well, Dave is coming in with, like, the Cliff Notes in the original Greek, so.
But the reality is, I think we all have beliefs that we think are true, and we all have relativisms operating as well. When your view is one that the Bible should just be this clear thing we all sort of have access to, and the Holy Spirit just teaches us what to believe, well, you got tons of groups out there who all claim the Holy Spirit as their teacher, coming to different conclusions.
A lot of groups, but you do see a lot of unity as well around the fundamental doctrines. And then there, to me at least, and then you see the splitting with the secondary issues, and that's, you know, one of the goals of this series. But yeah, man, you're a deep guy. Have you ever, you're familiar with the expression, don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out?
I think it's interesting too how Paul says you're a deep guy, man, or whatever, because it's like he says it like an insult, like you've thought too deeply about this and you're starting to lose the plot. And it's a little bit offensive. Like, Dave is being very open and vulnerable and honest here. Dave is trying to share about where he's actually at, and I feel like this is just the least welcoming, warm, open, inviting environment to share your deconstruction in. Like, Paul is not the person that I would want to talk to because he's so condescending.
I feel like some deconstructionists would fit into that. Dave asked me to do the polar bath challenge. Cold water, go with the cold water. I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to this at all.
And I don't like to start the timer until we're ready. Okay.
Don't think about it.
You got this, man. Stay pretty pressed.
You alright?
Yeah.
I'm doing great.
Bro, you got me for a minute, and I'm out. It's absolutely horrible. I respect this man so much more. Hey.
Here are some waters for y'all if you need them. Okay.
We are going to put them on the hot seat. So if you know Paul and Morgan, we are going to get behind the scenes and ask them about their marriage.
We just wrapped up the podcast. How we feeling?
Yeah. So good. It's so interesting, like, being together in person and like getting to talk about our similar experiences, especially when it comes to like negative online experiences. Like, we don't often have that camaraderie of like, wow, someone who understands and gets us.
It's just so fun to get like the behind the scenes of y'all's whole inner workings of how, because we know how we do things at Girl Define, and it's a lot of similar stuff, different, but like getting the behind the scenes and talking about, you know, like the conflicts in marriage right before you record, how you are through those before you talk about the Lord.
I don't think that I could do anything like this with my sister, so.
Really? You and I, we've had some this is like the best, probably the last 2 years or so are the most peaceful and the best Girl Define has ever been between us.
Yeah.
We went through a time where it was like a few years ago where we were like, we have to find a counselor. We have to find someone who specializes like in like ministry counseling.
Family.
We just
working together, relationships.
We just could not like see eye.
I will say that Bethany and Kristen have definitely given me this vibe before. People have definitely pointed out that when Kristen talks, Bethany gets really bored. She's not really listening. And they just seem to have such different personalities. And especially now after the news of their kind of, you know, slow deconstruction has come out, they haven't posted, like Girl Defined has not posted a video in a while. Like, it's been a few months and they're really not continuing right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're working out between them right now what is going to happen. Are Bethany and Dave going to start something else? Is Kristen going to take over the ministry herself? Or is Bethany still interested in, you know, staying part of it? Do you think that, you know, Bethany will stay a Christian? It is just interesting to me. And I am not surprised that Morgan is saying that she couldn't do something like this with her family because she's already had such a hard time doing it with Paul, who at, you know, this point was doing all of the filming, all of the editing, etc. She just was in the videos. She doesn't like it with her spouse, which again, I can see why she wouldn't like it with Paul. If you've watched any of my other Paul and Morgan videos, I can see why she wouldn't like it in that case, but I don't think that she would like it more with a family member either.
I know like how to operate the ministry and like what to do, and we just both grew and matured somehow through that, and it just has.
And we
like,
changed the way we operate.
Yeah.
We've like established some very good, healthy patterns of.
So we didn't actually end up doing the counseling, but it's been like.
I love how they talked about that whole story, but then they actually didn't end up doing it. But just thinking about it apparently fixed them. Bethany is so funny to me. I actually, like, I don't like her opinions on things, but she's fun for me to watch at this point, which I know is bizarre to say, so give me grace.
No,
It's like really
seriously,
amazing.
yeah.
it's like that's so I feel like that's why we can keep going, because we've gotten to a place where we are functioning super well.
Here was one debrief. They are very high energy. Like as soon as that camera goes on, and you heard Bethany's like,
is everything that they say like kind of negative slanted. He's like, they're just so high energy. She's talking about how I could never do something like this. And I know that in some ways you could say that to be a positive thing or to be a compliment, but it doesn't come across really complimentary. Let me know what you guys think here. But to me, it just feels like Paul and Morgan have been like getting their little digs on them this entire time.
intro.
Today on the Girl Defined Show, we are so excited to have Paul and Morgan.
Immediately she like dove in, talking a mile a minute. And I like, it took me a minute to like process. And then I was like, all right, I gotta like raise my energy a little bit.
Are you still processing what just happened? Hey, you can play things back half speed.
That's true. Maybe you.
I listen to everything on speed and a half, but we tell people for our channel,
That makes
play
sense.
it back half speed.
You do not want to listen to this on a
Hilarious.
speed and a half. Hey, I want to commend them though, on the record. They were here before we started. They were some of our inspirations and helped us get the ball rolling, and they are still going hard, and that is rare in this space. This is not an easy space to have longevity.
I'm kind of surprised that Girl Defined hasn't gotten bigger in the actual Christian sphere, that they haven't done more like conferences or had guest speaking deals. That girl from Duck Dynasty, like her name will come to me, I know what it is, Sadie Robertson, she has done all these different speaking gigs at different Christian conferences, and I'm kind of surprised that Bethany and Kristen have just kept it all to YouTube, essentially, and their own conferences that they put on.
In ministry
Hey, thank
alone,
you.
but then
That's
also
so kind.
YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
I mean, I feel like for us it's been like having
He's still laughing.
he's still coming. Like knowing why we're here, because it's like now that we're both moms, you know, like that's a priority and that's really important. And so we've had to really adjust. So we actually have 2 other people that work for us.
Like even for us, something we've kind of struggled with at times is we've been on the platform for 7 years. We're not the same people.
Yeah.
And even like some of our views, like I would say, hopefully, and in so many ways we've grown and we've matured as believers. But
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, and if you guys want to hear more of my opinion on that, I actually did just make a video called Do Paul and Morgan Regret Anything? It's recent, I'll pin it at the end of this video, but that's a really good video talking about this exact issue, where Paul and Morgan keep saying that their opinions have changed, that they've grown, that they're different now, and maybe that really is true inside of their own home. I obviously don't know what goes on behind closed doors. That being said, I don't see that change in their content. I don't see that change in the way that they talk about other people or talk to other people. I don't see that change in the way that Paul treats Morgan. I actually see it getting worse. And so this is something that he's been saying for a long time now, I think, to get people to hear him with new ears, but nothing has changed, and so our feedback hasn't really changed either.
some of our views have shifted a little
for
bit.
sure.
Girl Defined now versus Girl Defined 5 years ago. You guys have gotten some pretty heavy criticism, and you guys know, honestly, can we
just talk about that?
They have been through it. They have been through it.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Like the most hated Christian channel out there, I feel like.
Really?
See, I don't feel like that's true either. I feel like you could say you guys get the most hate. You've been labeled like the most cringe unfairly. But to say that they're the most hated is actually kind of a mean thing to say. I understand that all of the things I'm having criticism with could be taken 2 ways, and it could just be Morgan's extremely dry delivery or Paul's kind of egotistic personality that's making it come across that way to me, but that is just kind of how it reads.
That sounds, that's not to say like you guys just get it, man. And
Yeah.
well, so one thing I'm wondering, modesty. You guys have some videos where you are now versus where you were, say, 5 years ago. And actually one of our patrons said to ask you guys that. Have your views changed on modesty?
We have a great podcast that we recorded on that. What was that one? Oh, it was called How Our Views on Modesty Have Changed.
There we go.
They have changed. But I think they've changed more so in the fact that we were painting very black lines in scripture of like modesty is this, it isn't this. And
Girl Defined, I will say, they're not fixed, you guys. Every time that I post a video talking about their progress, people will say, They're still homophobic. They're still yes, they are. They just are. But I do want to kind of talk about the deconstruction process and the progress that they are making. That's not to say that they're fine now and that we can just wave away all of these other things that are very real and true, okay? That's not to say that, but I do think that nobody's ever going to change if we don't let them, you know what I mean? And so, again, this isn't to minimize in any way, shape, or form their opinions or the harm that they've done or some of the really bad takes that they have, the really bad opinions. None of that, but I do want to point out, in contrast to me saying Paul and Morgan have not changed, I do see that change with Kristen and Bethany, and I do see that change in some of their content, like the modesty content. Where do I not see that change? Sexuality, gender, feminism. Like, there are a lot of areas that I don't see them making any changes on at all. I do actually see that behavior from Kristen and Bethany. Do not see that, have never seen that from Paul and Morgan.
These lines and these boundaries and saying this is what's biblical and this is what isn't. And we've come to realize the scripture doesn't actually draw those lines that we were drawing. It talks about modesty and women should care about it, but not in the ways that we were drawing lines. Like, our version of modesty wasn't 100% biblical, I guess. So coming to terms of just realizing, like, our perspective was our opinion, but not biblical truth. And we've even changed in some of our opinions of what we believe about modesty and our views on just, I don't know, like, what would you add?
Well, I mean, we don't even think the same on it exactly now. Like, we've changed. I think especially for me, like, getting married. So I was, like, single for much longer than you. And so I had all these ideas of, like, oh, modesty and men and, like, all of this stuff. And then getting married to Dave and him sharing more of, like, his actual thoughts with me. And then me really asking myself, why do I feel like this certain thing is modest and this isn't? And something for me even recently that I've really realized is that I had this idea that almost like if like attraction was almost like immodest. And so for me, I wanted to...
Yes, this goes back completely to the story that I told you guys at the beginning of this about my experience at Bible camp, where the sin is actually being attractive or other people potentially being attracted to you. The sin isn't really being modest. Like, you could have somebody that is deemed conventionally unattractive and they could be in shorter shorts and a tank top and the leaders aren't going to say anything. But if a, like, conventionally attractive person does that, they will get on you about it. And that is hard, not just for the girl that's conventionally attractive getting slut-shamed essentially from her childhood, but it's also hard for the people who don't receive it, because it's a very clear message to them that, yeah, we don't really need to worry about you because we don't think anybody's going to find you attractive. And the weirdest part to me was always knowing that adults then were aware of children's levels of attractiveness and, like, gauging what other children would find them attractive. And that was really weird to me. I was like, I don't understand why you are thinking about, like, which girls would be the most attractive to the boys here. It's just odd to me. And so I do like, again, that Kristen and Bethany are making this change, and hopefully that change can be reflected in how they raise their children. Because I think this has the most harm when you're raised in it. When you believe it as an adult, it's not that big of a deal to start dressing, like, more modestly in your 30s or how, like, I'm 28. It's not hard to dress modestly now.
Wear more like looser clothing and not really show the fact that I was a woman, because I thought, oh, that's like part of the problem. And almost like even as a, like, you know, a married person, that you should never even think anyone else or any other human is like attractive. And so I've realized, like, it's okay. Like, I can be out in the world and see a man who is attractive and just be like, oh, that's an attractive man, and move on with my day. I don't have to be like, oh my gosh, well, you know, or that deep.
Yeah, because the word lust is very nebulous in Christian culture. I've talked to you guys about this before, where in videos they'll say things that sound really clear. So they'll say things like, you know, don't lust after people, especially when you're married, your eyes should be for your spouse. And even if you're secular, you might go, yeah, like, I'm married and I don't want my spouse looking at other people like that. But everybody is just going to naturally notice, like, people that they're attracted to, attractive people walking around. And it's really unclear when it becomes lust. Is lust being attracted? Is lust dwelling on it for more than a second? Or is lust like actively thinking about that person and like really going deep with it? What actually is lust? And so Christians, a lot of times, I would say most times in evangelical culture, they just say like attraction is bad. And so if you are more attractive, then you're causing other people to sin with your body, which is a sin in and of itself. And it just gets more layered and more stressful and more complicated. And so it's good that now she's able to be out in public and like see a man and go, I find him attractive, and then move on with it and not be worried about it and praying about it and worried that she's somehow like spiritually cheated on her husband in this way.
See, obviously there are other beautiful women in the world, you know? Obviously what he does with that is a different story, but like he can see other women in the world and be like, they're beautiful, and move on with his day. So that has been like part of the growth journey for me, and I think that's contributed toward some of the change in conversation as well for us. Yeah.
Let me go a step further. Look at someone like Joshua Harris. You guys are obviously familiar with Joshua Harris. He looks back at his past, and he went so far as to make apologies for it, say this was harmful.
Just so you guys know, Joshua Harris is the author of a book that came out maybe like late 90s, early 2000s, called I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and he really was a big proponent of courtship, waiting until marriage to have your first kiss, only dating if you're going to marry them, essentially, and just taking this really specific path. But it harmed a lot of people because they were also given this promise that if they followed that path, that they would be blessed with a beautiful, wonderful, perfect marriage, a spouse that they're super attracted to, and an incredible sex life unimpacted by the broken world. And that's just not the case. And a lot of people actually never found spouses. It's not funny. It's very sad, because they chose not to date all through their teens, their 20s, and into their mid-30s, because they were waiting for that courtship-style romance to come about. And so people did actually experience real harm from this and lasting impacts from this. And so he did eventually come out and apologize, deconstruct, and let people know that he was kind of used by like the Christian industry to write this. I mean, he was like 19 years old when this book was published, but he's come out and he's apologized and deconstructed and really views everything a whole lot differently now. And he has acknowledged the harm that was caused by the writing.
Because my views on purity culture, they caused harm to people, and now he's like one of the leaders in the deconstruction movement. When you look back, are you like inclined to say, man, we caused harm because we made it look too black and white? Or are you more like, no, we still believe that, but we could have worded it a little better?
We haven't issued an apology.
No, we haven't. In our podcast episode, it was us just saying this is how we've grown. This is how God has changed us, and even our understanding of like interpreting scripture and being careful to not put our own interpretation on what scripture is saying and adding to it. But even looking back on like the way that we approach modesty, we would even say, I remember even in our little booklet that we wrote on modesty, we were very intentional to say, we're just showing you examples of what we do, but this isn't what you have to do. The podcast episode we did on it was us just saying like, this is how the Lord has grown us. We've always, from the beginning of Girl Defined, I said, go to the word yourself. Like even with the modesty, we were like, go to the word.
You can say go to the word yourself, but you're also presenting yourself as a spiritual leader to some degree. And so people are going to trust you, and I do wish that they would take a little bit more accountability here for that reason.
Well, can I just say I saw the Project Modesty video. I think it's been removed. And for some of the reasons you were describing.
It can be really hard to find modest shirts right off the rack. But with a little creativity, you can make a lot of them work. Low-cut shirts. You can add a cami underneath, you can add a scarf on top, or a button-up underneath. And shirts that aren't fixable, just stitch them. A good saying is, when in doubt, go without.
I kind of liked it. I got it, because you guys did get specific. I didn't feel from me watching it that it's like, you have to do exactly what, you know.
It wasn't for Paul to watch it, though. It's for young women. And yes, they weren't saying you have to do this to be a Christian. But they were saying if you're a Christian, you'll want to follow God's rules, and God says you need to be modest, and so this is what modesty looks like. In a roundabout way, they are telling you this is what you need to do. And Christians will do this a lot and say, well, no one's saying you have to do it. Well, yeah, if you don't want to go be tortured for eternity, so much for free choice.
Because you guys were like,
Right.
you can dress modestly and
Fashionably. It was like dressing modestly and fashionably. We were trying to inspire. Like, look at how you compare clothes.
Was
like,
it a little
shorts?
Those outfits were scary.
Back then, that was like 8 years ago.
Yeah, right. But was it maybe a little cheesy? Like, sure, some could say it was, or the.
We have many cheesy.
Okay,
But-
now we're offended. We thought it was really good.
But no, you guys were showing like, if you're gonna wear this shirt, if you wanna wear it, maybe wear this type of shirt underneath it. If you're gonna wear this, and I'm like, it's just practical advice. So but I appreciate you guys saying like, we've grown in this way, but we cannot expect a Girl Defined apology tour.
It's not gonna happen.
All right.
And what does it fix? What does it fix?
Right.
What does it fix except for appease the haters? Which that's not our goal.
No, they want you on.
I wish they would stop talking about the haters, because I do think talking about the haters feeds the haters, but I also don't think that, like, the haters really exist. It's just people with dissenting opinions, and obviously you can get people that are being bullies and mean or just unkind, and you can't really pay attention to them, but not everybody who disagrees with you is a hater.
On the stake after that. They don't
No,
like
we
never
will
gonna be
share
enough.
how we've
the
grown and
steak, the
changed.
fire. What is it called? The steak.
Oh, the
The grill. They want you gone.
burned at the stake.
Yeah, they want you to do what Josh Harris did. They don't just want you to apologize.
Yeah.
They want you to completely deconstruct and have rainbow flags and do what he's doing.
There's the homophobia that we talked about. So again, you guys, I don't want to minimize in any way the harm. This is why we have these conversations, and there's so much nuance here, because just because someone improves in one area doesn't mean that they've totally changed. But it does give me glimmers of hope to see them start shifting in this direction. And it gives me hope that maybe other influencers, people like Paul and Morgan, although I doubt it, but people like Paul and Morgan will maybe follow their lead and go, maybe there is something a little bit more to this. And maybe maybe I should start asking myself more critical questions and exposing myself to more things in the world.
So
We're not doing that.
No intentions to deconstruct
No.
from Girl Defined.
Not gonna happen.
We're not done with you, Dave.
He said he's not done with y'all either. So did he really shock y'all? What did he shock y'all with?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave shocked us.
We were shocked.
What was shocking?
How different you guys are.
Yeah.
Because you seem very much at peace
Mm-hmm.
with him working through this stuff and figuring out like where
Yeah.
he stands on things. What do you think? Why do you think you're so at peace with that?
I mean, from the beginning, honestly, like, a huge goal of mine in marriage was to not try to control my husband, and I had seen that done, like, so much, and it seems like there's a happy marriage on the front, all of these conservative values and all of.
I actually really do appreciate that about Bethany here, because I do think that when you try to change someone or control them, that just generally is not going to go well, even if it's trying to change them back to who they were at the beginning. It's kind of like adapt or die. Like that she's not trying to force Dave to be someone who he's not, even if it's not who she married. You know what I mean?
This, like going to the word and stuff. But then behind the scenes, there was like a lot of anxiety or just like a lot of dysfunction. I didn't really care about Dave, like putting like, I mean, I did, but like, I didn't want him to just appear a certain way for like my own ego or image or whatever.
Yeah.
And he grew up in a family where he knows the Bible frontwards and backwards,
He said he's read it multiple times.
yeah.
Too.
Even just like in the years that we've been married, he's, like if he commits to something, he does it. So he did like 2 years back to back where he did like Bible reading plan, and he like never, like he absolutely finishes it. And like we'll do like Bible trivia games, and he like knows, like he knows all of it. He's like extremely like highly churched, like highly in the word, and the like fruit of some of that, like just the anxiety and the struggle and the just like, I don't know, like it's just been difficult. Dave is,
I'd say the more you know about the Bible and about theology, the harder it is to work through mentally, because you're dealing with more complicated stuff that intersects a million more times. I mean, look up one of those like maps of all the cross references in the Bible, and it's like this huge web. Things get more complicated, and it's hard to talk to people about your deconstruction, especially if you're someone like Dave or someone even like me. Not that I know everything, but I studied heavily, was educated with Christian curriculum. I took Christian worldview classes. I read C.S. Lewis, like all of C.S. Lewis's books by the time that I was in the 6th grade. Okay, so it's hard because things get so complex. And I get what she's saying here, where she's saying kind of the fruit of that, even though the fruit is supposed to be a positive thing, but the fruit of being so heavily churched and knowing so much is that it's incredibly overwhelming and it's incredibly hard, especially if you don't believe. If you don't believe anymore and you're having these doubts, the more you know, the more, for me at least, it felt like it shifted things.
Someone who like is constantly seeking outside advice, and the mentors, our pastors, the men in his life, I highly respect and I think are really amazing. And so I like, to me, he's a man like that is like very full of integrity. And so instead of having an interest in reading certain books or learning from certain teachers and me just being like, I don't like that, don't show that to me, I want to be more like inviting of that and being like, hey, I want to know, share that with me. And to be honest, like who he is as a man now, and like his, like, I don't know, how he loves me, how he treats our family, his stability as a leader has only improved. And so like I feel like I have a better life.
Yeah.
So I guess it's something I'm not really afraid of, because I just, maybe some of this practical stuff that he's learning now was missed as he was growing up. And so it's almost like rewinding. And although not all of it's like from a Christian perspective, to me, it seems like it's been really beneficial in his life. And now we don't listen to all the same things and read all the same things, and we don't approach how we if I want peace in my life, I am very much like go to the Word, and like my relationship with Christ is where I find that. And that's not always the case for him, but like it doesn't bother me that much, which sounds crazy.
Yeah. But how do you feel like it will affect kids, like your all's kids, as they start to get older, start asking questions, like they ask him questions and about the Bible or about just like, you know, whatever, something very stereotypical that like...
I can appreciate them asking this question, but at the same time, like, what do they want her to do? Get a divorce? Is that more Christian than staying with your partner who lost their faith? Genuinely, you guys, if you're a Christian, answer this for me, because I don't know. I would think she's doing this the best way that she can. I would assume that divorce wouldn't be the answer, but it's almost like they want her to just rag on Dave here. They want her to say, yeah, Dave is messing everything up and I'm just long suffering to stay with him. And I don't think that it's right of them to bait her in that way. And I actually do think that Bethany handled this conversation very well.
Dave and you might see totally different on how do you guys think you'll approach that?
Yeah. Well, he actually initiated and led us switching churches. So we were going to kind of like a basic Bible-believing, non-denominational type of church. And it's the church I grew up in. I was very comfortable there. And he wasn't super excited about it. And he really was the one who initiated us leaving. So now we go to a small Lutheran church, which was so different than anything I grew up with. But that's kind of like as much as he might read all these books about philosophy or whatever, I don't know, all this other stuff, he is like the one who led our family into this church that is amazing. And I have learned and grown like so much as a Christian, and it's a place where I'm so excited to raise my kids and to raise a family. And I think that if I had tried to control that, like, no, I want to stay at our previous church, like that's scary to move churches. And now we're in this Lutheran church with all of this liturgy and, you know, like infant baptism and all these crazy things. We wouldn't have made this transition if I had like dug my...
I love how infant baptism is the crazy thing when they were such fundamentalist, rigid Christians before this. So it's really not like Lutherans are not like that hardcore in my opinion.
My heels in, but I was excited about it, and it was, even though it was a little scary, and that's like all because of Dave's leadership, you know. And so I feel like our kids are in a wonderful place. Like, although we might not agree on everything theologically or how we go about practically getting help, like he to me is someone who is like very much has like a true, genuine faith. It just looks really different from mine. But I view my kids as having like an incredible dad, and I think they're going to be like extremely stable and not manipulated into the faith, or not like coerced into like, this is, you need to look this way and act this way, and then when they get older, like ditch it. I think they have a dad who's extremely authentic and genuine, and in the long run, to me, that's like going to go so much further than him looking like this, you know, ideal Christian man, whatever that is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, very interesting.
Morgan.
I think what she's saying right here is so important and does show a lot of growth too, because she's talking about them being exposed to the world might even make less rebellion, give their children more of a free will than children that are raised with really strict rules, and that they can see how to live a good life either way. And so if they decide not to be Christians, they're probably not going to still go jump off the deep end. They're going to probably still live normal, healthy lives. And I really like what she's saying here, because it shows a shift in her perspective that the only way to do anything, the exact only right way, is to have two Christian male, female parents in the household raising the children.
It's like, no. No.
Hey, it's your old marriage. You gotta figure it out.
Saying it's your marriage and you gotta figure it out is so rude. To me, she's just being like, I'll pray for you, you're wrong. But Bethany didn't give the impression that they're having marital problems. She actually said the exact opposite. She said, I feel like things are going even better now because Dave is being more himself. He's happier. He's able to exist freely. And so things are actually even better. And so selfishly, like, it is kind of like I'm winning in the end. For Morgan to come back and be like, you guys got to figure it out. It sounds like they did. And I think that Morgan, if she does have an issue with it, this would be the time to say, wow, I love that you've landed in such a peaceful place. Do you mind if I share, just for the viewers of our own channel, kind of like what our perspective on this would be, and actually give feedback? Because just saying it's your marriage, you got to figure it out, it just rubs me the wrong way so bad. They're just so rude. I have such a hard time getting over how rude Paul and Morgan are. And I understand that Morgan is probably uncomfortable here, because I also laugh when I'm uncomfortable. But at the same time, if you know that these types of conversations are going to make you uncomfortable, don't host a show, the 24 Hours With series. Don't do a series where you're actually interviewing people who are going through deconstruction processes, or specifically people who don't agree with you, people who have, maybe joined a more progressive form of Christianity. I don't think if you're going to react like this to people's vulnerable stories, that you should then do videos like this. That's just my personal opinion, because I think Bethany is sharing and kind of making the announcement about her views on this episode. She's sharing very vulnerably, and they're just making kind of like a joke out of it and making her feel like she's wrong to feel that way. And again, I just want to ask, what do they expect her to do? Is she supposed to get a divorce? Is she supposed to just be really, really unhappy until Dave changes? What do they expect her to do? Because I personally couldn't give Bethany and Dave any advice to handle this better than the way that they're handling it right now.
How are you holding up, Bethany?
Good. Can I get y'all a snack? Oh, look what I have. Look, does anyone need a bar?
Oh, ho, ho! We got bars.
I mean, between the two of us, for sure, like, who's influenced the other more, like, in our relationship, for sure Dave's influenced me more. Okay. Like, I've for sure become more like him. Yeah. And so I guess less kind of like my family, less how I was raised.
Yeah.
Is that hard for your family to see?
I think they're just like, oh, Dave and Bethany, they're random.
Those two crazy kids.
Everyone so far has been like super respectful and like very much like, as adults, like respecting each other's views. Maybe if we were like ditching the faith or something, but it's like we're still super strong Christians. It just looks different in some of the gray areas and secondary issues.
I don't think Dave believes in God is pretty clear to me. I think that she doesn't want to just say that on this episode. This was posted about a year ago. And they've had one video since then where they talk more about it. It's now deleted, but I did make a video on this called Losing Your Faith in the Public Eye. You guys can check that out if you want. This is their only other video talking about it, so I felt like it was time to probably cover it. And yeah, I just wanted to share that.
my views to be challenged, because I don't just want to live in a certain way or believe things because I've always believed them and they're like not actually true or beneficial. There might be a better way to live.
I have a feeling that like a lot of people who watch your stuff, who hate watch your stuff, are like, she just lives in an echo chamber. She's not surrounded by anyone with differing opinions. I think they would.
Yeah, and I think Bethany did live in an echo chamber, so I think that that's fair to say. I think that Paul and Morgan are in an echo chamber. I think that to not be in an echo chamber, you have to be really willing to grapple with dissenting opinions. And people don't like to do that. They like to call it the haters. And I'm not saying, like, you guys, I'm sensitive. Don't leave hate comments on my stuff. But if you guys give me criticism or feedback, even if it's just, like, on the quality of a video, I do take that into account and make those changes. And I don't say you're haters. In fact, sometimes comments where it, like, is like, ooh, that hurt a little, but they're right. I'm going to change that. I might go look and see. And they've left, 5 other super nice comments on my stuff. And so to ball them into some nebulous hater group doesn't feel fair to me. And Paul and Morgan don't engage with criticism at all. And so I think, like for them, they have been in an echo chamber. I think Girl Defined was, but Dave has started to maybe break them out of that echo chamber a little bit more. And like Bethany's saying, I think that that's ultimately a really positive thing. Even if Bethany does decide to stay in Christianity, I think that just knowing more and having more exposure to the world is probably a positive thing.
Be shocked to know. Like, your own husband has very drastically different opinions than you, and you're living under the same roof with him and being challenged, and you guys are pushing each other, and I think that's very interesting to learn about you. I didn't know that.
Play with our family and everyone's like at the same level as us, so this is...
Dude, no, this will just be fun, man.
18 weeks pregnant, can I beat them?
Baby number 2 is gonna be a big boy.
No, he's tiny.
This is way too much pickleball for me. We're gonna cut it out. It literally goes on for like several minutes.
Honey, we've talked a little bit about like how you and Kristen have grown in your views and whatnot, and I feel like you all get pushback for growing.
I mean, the pushback for growing probably comes more from Christians.
Yeah.
Because they're like used to us being a certain way, and they like the more conservative black and white version of us. We've been accused of, like conservative Christians are like, we can't follow y'all anymore. You're basically like becoming feminists. And it's like, have you seen like all the stuff we're posting?
Yeah.
That's kind of like a big claim. Like, you guys are becoming feminists. What are they going off of?
I don't know. Like, if we're not super hard on everything, like how a dating relationship be purity, just like anything, it's like it's not necessarily like feminist stuff, but they just view us, if we're not ultra conservative, then we have to be like feminist. If we're not ultra conservative, then we have to be deconstructing. Like, if we're not,
there's no middle ground.
Yeah, there's no middle ground. It's like very, very extreme. But at the end of the day, we're not trying to be like the Holy Spirit for people and tell people what they can and can't do. People have specifically accused me of being like, oh, you're really becoming, more of a feminist and stuff. Like, oh, Bethany, she's taking steps, she's almost there. And I always crack up because I'm like, what? Like, I am still like an extremely passionate like Christian. Like, everything I do is like coming from an extremely passionate Christian view. Like, I don't know what it is that makes them like think that.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
It's
that's
so weird.
Kind of what that's what the haters are hoping for. They want
the haters this, the haters that. Is it the haters? Because at this point, Bethany's kind of established it's more of Christians that are actually giving her the pushback on this. But it's just interesting how they kind of talk about this in different ways and how they view their audiences, which I understand why Paul and Morgan would have more of a negative view on their audience because their audience is more negative to them, in my opinion, than the Girl Defined's audience is to them. But it's just like they have this really negative skew on all of the questions they've been asking Dave and Bethany. Like, they want them to admit that their lives are terrible and that they need to change things about themselves.
You to be there, so they're like, she's almost there, and then the Christians are like, she's there, she's too far gone.
But like the haters, they would only be happy if it were like a full deconstruction, and then like hating, going out and like hating Girl Defined or making apology videos or whatever. It's like, I'm, you know.
Whoa, that was a big one.
Why is it so fun for boys to like throw things
don't
on your
know.
head?
But Luca is literally...
I don't know if I agree that people want a full deconstruction, but I do think people want to see them catch up on baseline social issues, maybe just be a little bit more open and welcoming and accepting. I personally don't hope that anybody leaves their faith. I don't. That being said, I do hope that everybody engages with faith in a way that allows them to be the most loving person, the best neighbor possible. And I think that being a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more loving are all things that are going to help send you in that direction.
Obsessed with throwing things at us, and I'm like,
Why do you want to destroy us?
see my life flash before my eyes.
I got a question on that.
Yeah.
Just a little switch So, you know, we're talking about the haters. They say something like, Kristen and Bethany's views are still problematic. And again, these are the hate videos.
Yeah.
Still problematic, but I am seeing progress with them. From my research, I'm seeing a trend of that. How does that make you feel? And is that a good thing?
I guess that would be me, people like me that they're talking about here, although when they made this video a year ago, my channel didn't exist. So they're not talking about me, but they are.
They're saying that.
I don't take that as a compliment. I don't, well, because what do they want? You know, what is progress to them? We are really trying to have more of like okay, the gospel is the most important.
Progress to me, like I said, is being more open-minded, catching up on some baseline social issues, caring about everybody's human rights, wanting equality, those types of things. For me, it doesn't necessarily involve leaving Christianity. That's just my opinion. I don't care if Dave becomes an atheist or not. I don't have a horse in that race.
Secondary issues, like instead of saying like this is the way, either that's our opinion or you know, and I guess they view that as progress, moving away from scripture, but the reality is we still have very strong convictions and beliefs. We just don't necessarily always put them out there in the same way. Maybe we're not as far as they actually think we are. I mean, Kristen and I have a book coming out in the fall, and it is
shout out.
Well, it is like so hardcore Girl Defined, but in like the best way possible, and I'm so pumped about it. It's like everything, like oh my.
I feel like Paul just derails conversations with his behavior. Like, let her finish what she's trying to say.
Like, if you have read the first book, Girl Defined, and you're like, wow, that was a lot, this book is gonna blow your mind, though.
Whoa!
Because it's like, it really is. Nice. So we're not going anywhere.
How does it make you feel?
I actually read that book. It's called Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart, and I did a book review on it. If you guys are interested in learning more, if you disagree with my opinions, then go ahead and read the book. Obviously, I think if you disagree with my opinions in that, then you probably would like the book, but there are reasons that I probably wouldn't recommend it to Christians as well. Some of their other books, I haven't read all of their books, to be honest with you. Some of their other books are more just their opinions on things and about girlhood, and so for those, go ahead and read them if you want. Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart, to me, gives a lot of advice that is like relationship advice, intimacy advice, sex advice, and I don't think that it's coming from a very educated place, and I don't think that it's really good advice because of that reason.
I was watching a video today, haters, criticism videos, you guys get a ton of it. I saw a video, I know I did, 33 million views reacting to you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, first off, what do you think is so appealing about people watching videos on you? Like, why is there so much interest around you guys?
I mean, honestly, I have been trying to figure that out. I don't know if it's like the dumb blonde stereotype or if it's because like we're sisters. Like, one,
it's controversial, but then two, people who agree with you also are going to latch on to that and become a lot more dedicated because there's not a lot of other young people to look to. And this is particularly back when Girl Defined really was in their heyday. They've kind of slowed down now. And there are a lot more options for women that want to engage with Christian content creators. There's just a lot more available now. So I don't know if that would be as true today. I don't know if they started their channel today, if they would have gotten any views, because we do have other people like Ali Stuckey or Mrs. Midwest.
I wondered that, like, why is there just like this explosion of people that love to make cringe videos about us? What do you think?
Oh, what do I think? You guys were some of the first ones, and you guys were, okay, you all are very bubbly. You're very bubbly,
energetic.
Like I already said from jumping in the podcast with you guys.
Paul and Morgan look down on femininity because of their fundamentalist views. So I think that they're saying, well, you're getting bullied because of your femininity. Here, we'll let them finish so we can see if that's what they're saying. But I don't think the rest of the world is disliking them because of their bubbly femininity. That's just not reality to me.
You turn it on and it's like, well, like high energy. I wonder if some people would say like they're making their lives look so perfect and bubbly, and it comes across fake.
People have said that.
But for Paul and Morgan, they say the reason that they get hate is because they are raw and real and share the hard stuff in life. So pick one. Are you getting hated because you're raw and real, or because you're too bubbly and happy and fake? I think that maybe there is a place to start listening to some of the criticism.
Yeah, which is, it's who we are online and like on social media and stuff. Like, it really is like a very accurate representation of like our personalities and stuff. Like, people have caught that. Like, I'm probably more bubbly and more energetic and loud than Kristen, and people have caught those things about her personality. Like, I'm more spontaneous, she's more well thought out, you know? So it's like those things, those are true about us, you know? So like the high energy, the fast talking, like that's always been. But people also have a lot of other misconceptions. Like, people think our family's like super wealthy, or that we were just handed everything, and so we're extremely spoiled, like these privileged kids. And we've talked so much about like, our parents literally moved to Texas with like $300 and their like really old beat up car, started a business from scratch that provided for all 8 of us kids. Like, we grew up in an extremely small house, always drove old cars. Like, I don't know why people think we're just like these super stuck up, like fake plastic people. It's like, where'd you get that idea? Like,
that's
we're not.
So interesting, because like people have said that about us, and so I wonder if just like people just assume that like influencers or social media people are just always like come from rich families and lots of money.
No, we're not from Utah. We don't have that rich Mormon gene. I'm sorry.
Oh, Dave's laughing. Get him.
It's because all the Mormons are like all wealthy. All the Mormon influencers.
LDS.
Okay, so intimate wife. The Intimate Wife Instagram. Well, okay, first of all, you started on your own Instagram page.
For those of you who don't know, the Intimate Wife Instagram is where Bethany talks about things relating to sex now that she is a wife and is allowed, God-sanctioned, to have sex.
Making content all about sex. I'm saying it quietly because there are children around.
Get away from the children.
And you ended up like basically like being thrown in Instagram prison, first of all. So that's insane and weird. But you also, I feel like, probably receive a decent amount of pushback from Christians being like, you're being way too edgy, you're being way too open about sex, and you're taking away from the gospel. Like, you're taking away from what you could be discipling young women on. How do you go about that, and like people telling you how to run your platform?
People have a lot of expectations for what like I should say, for what Girl Defined should say. I would say like the majority of the response has been largely positive, but there's probably like 20% of people who are Christians who are very passionate that I shouldn't be talking about sex, and that this should be something that's specifically just between like a husband and wife and the Bible, and that it's extremely inappropriate for me to be talking about it. And like, I'm super careful not to share like intimate details, like, and then this and this touch, but like a lot of these Christians act like I'm literally like writing an erotic novel. That's definitely not the heart or the goal, to be like super graphic, but I guess what I do post, a lot of people would consider to be extremely graphic and erotic. So we just have different definitions of what that would be.
That's true. And I feel like a lot of Christians feel that way because they did not grow up talking about sex. And that's, you know, one of the reasons you're doing it is for those people.
Don't think that it's not being open about talking about it. It's about talking about it in a way where you are demonizing sexual activity outside of marriage. And so if somebody does choose to have sex, they might not make good choices. It's about maybe like demonizing birth control, about demonizing access to abortion care, all of these things. It's about purity culture, making you feel like there's something permanently dirty and wrong with you if you have sex. There's so much more to it, and I don't think that it's about your parents not talking to you about sex enough. And I think the reason that they're moving away from it and making it about the parenting is because then they would have to acknowledge the harms of growing up in this type of belief system and the damages that it really can have on your life. I don't think they want to do that. And so instead they're saying like, well, you know, those negative things wouldn't happen to our kids that we're raising in purity culture because we're going to have more open conversations. But I don't think the open conversation is really the problem, especially if those open conversations are you pushing an agenda every time. I would argue that that actually could make it worse.
People who want to learn, who have that desire to have a healthy sex life.
People were so mad at me for talking about how I saved my first kiss for marriage. Like, that's been people just like, you're so, you know, damaging and like all this stuff for telling, you know, even sharing that part of your story, you know, like how you shouldn't. And I'm like, that's just my story. I'm not saying other people have to do that. So then when I got married, and then as I've gone, you know, on in marriage and started talking about more about like sex and marriage and stuff, now people are like, like, it's like you can't, don't feel like you can win. You're like, okay, you're mad at me because I talked about saving my first kiss for marriage. Like that was too extreme. And now I actually talk about sex and marriage, and that's too extreme. It's just like, what, you know? And my question is though, like, okay, if other Christian women aren't talking about sex, who do you want talking about it? You know? Do you just want it to be Google? Like, do you just like, realistically, and the part that's hard for me is, you know, I see these hundreds and hundreds of women who go through the course that I created, the sex course where I interviewed all these experts, and I'm like, they're literally paying money to go through this. There's a need, you know, like they need this and they want this. So you might be over there like complaining, like, how dare you? But there are so many women who have had years of struggle, and it's like, where do you want them to go? They've never felt like they've had anywhere to go. Like,
I don't necessarily disagree with the concept of having something to educate women who have been harmed by purity culture. I think is the idea of what Bethany's course is. The problem for me is that with Bethany's course, they really aren't experts. Some of the experts that they have on, I think they're therapists, Christian couple, older couple, advocates for identifying female sexual organs by using your infant daughter or like an infant child to locate those parts so that it doesn't feel uncomfortable for your wife. They actually give what I would say are really, really bad advice, bad tips, and things that just are gross, and like it just, I mean, they feel really wrong and icky to me. When they're presenting these courses that people are paying for and they're inviting experts on, I wish that they would do a little bit more research to make sure they understand what an expert on relationships and sex and relationships would look like, instead of just picking a Christian counselor who didn't know female anatomy until after the birth of their own daughter. It's disgusting to say.
Shouldn't we be celebrating that there are more Christian women talking about this rather than trying to like silence them? And I have people who tell me like, when will you listen to the voices? You know, you have people correcting you and giving you like wisdom to stop and to like shut this down and to not talk about sex anymore. And they basically act like because them and several others, you know, 20% of them online are telling me to shut down, that I'm basically just like this super rebellious, I don't care about wisdom because I'm not shutting down because they want me to. So it's just like, it's just crazy. I don't understand. Like, I don't know what they want for.
I'll break it down. So you guys started out by having fundamentalist content where you said that you shouldn't even kiss before marriage, right? And so you're obviously going to get some dissenting views there from people that are saying this is too legalistic, but you're also going to get your loyal followers who do agree with you and believe those types of things, and they're there for your content. And then you switch up, decide that purity culture does have some harms, even though you're not wording it that way, and now you want to be super open about sex. Well, now you're pissing off that original group that supported you. You are going to get called out for your hypocrisy by the group that criticized you from the beginning, and you're going to have a hard time building a new audience that aligns with you because they just have so much controversy. And so I think that's where the real problem lies. I don't think it's that people said not kissing is not enough, but then you're not allowed to talk about sex either. You had like teen girls watching it and now they're getting like sex content. I think it's that you're blending these brands, one of which is really adult content and the other is for teen girls who are single.
Christian women, you know? And I, like, what about their own daughter? Are they talking about, like, what? Who?
Right.
It's just so mind-blowing to me.
Has there ever been a reel or post that you've made and after posting it and getting comments on it, you're like, okay, I went too far on that one?
I post things.
Shameless.
I post things and I don't think that they're a big deal in the moment.
Yeah.
And then later it turns into a big deal. So
no.
I posted a reel.
Yes.
And I'll say it and everyone's gonna be like screaming. It was about Thanksgiving.
I knew you were gonna say that one.
We talked about that one.
I literally.
We talked about that one. That just feels like you were being gossiped about before you got there. That's kind of how I would take it. I wouldn't really appreciate that. That's something that I would maybe say to my partner like on the debrief on the way home.
I saw it pop up on my phone and I said, Morgan, look at this.
Okay, I did not think about it. All I said is I asked Dave what his favorite dish was for Thanksgiving, and he said me. And I did not think it was a big deal. It was just like written on the text. I wasn't doing anything, so I'm like, I wasn't graphic. I just thought this was like a funny, kind of spicy married wife joke.
You knew it.
I am genuine. Like,
I believe her that she didn't.
I promise 100%. I didn't, when I posted it, I was not thinking like, this one will be a controversial, like this one is gonna, that's what happens. Like people, the ones, I do that sometimes. Yes, I do that. But like with that specific post, I was not doing that. Like I was not doing that. But there have been posts where I do know I'm being like, poking, spicy. Whatever. When I posted it, it wasn't a big deal. And then later I was like, wow.
Okay,
like people really didn't like that.
Still
Is
up?
it still up?
Yeah.
Can we share it right then, just so people can?
Oh, we'll plop it in.
I feel like we got to, and then people can take it how they want.
I really didn't though. That's a genuine. I get people's perspective on it, but like I still think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm not ashamed of it, and I think that we need some humor and some fun in the conversation too, or else it's like, you know, how about passionate marriage? You know, it's like.
So yeah, I mean, I remember when Paul showed me, and I was like,
you were shocked?
Well, my
I
mind
was like, too much visual.
because
Stop the brain.
Because you had made a post in the past, and I appreciate a lot of your posts because I'm like I appreciate that she's willing.
He does.
I do. I appreciate that she's willing to destigmatize something for the Christian community that some of them have a really hard time with.
We're in full support.
We
Some posts, I'm like,
I did not realize how controversial aspects of intimacy could be. Like genuinely, it's not until I started talking about like intimacy and you know, different things within intimacy that I realized like, wow, this is very divisive amongst Christians.
Oh my goodness.
In my mind, it's like, it's a husband and wife. Like, enjoy what you want. Like, why are we trying to, like, I do not get it. Like, if it's between the husband and wife and they're both on board, you're not bringing other people in, like, all of those basics, like, what is the deal? So it's just shocking to me. And there are people I know, like, we have had it out.
Really?
Like in the DMs, and they are just like, they like basically,
Christians?
like people I know from my past who have basically like come to my DMs to tell me even things like using lube, like that's, like you should not.
I don't have a problem with her content being on the internet, but for Christians, for a Christian audience, this is a little bit risque, and I don't understand what she doesn't understand about why people don't like this switch type of content. And yes, it is okay to have sex and marriage if you're a Christian, but I think the issue here is that there are still other parts like modesty and keeping the marriage bed sacred, and I think a lot of Christians could argue that she is failing to do that by making their sex life so public. And I know that to people that aren't Christians, you're going to be like, it's really not that public and people need to relax. And like, yeah, I don't disagree with that. It just surprises me that they're surprised, I guess, because to me, that is like exactly what would happen.
Anything besides like the basic act is like wrong, you know? And it's just like, where are we getting these ideas from?
It's true.
It's really crazy.
And then you just feel sad for them.
But all of those people claim, like, we've been married for this many years, and from day one, it's been the best. And you're just like, well, I don't believe it.
Hey, Morgan, it's so funny. You look very short.
Of course I do.
No, can we get a back-to-back? Can we get a back-to-back?
I meant to get a thing. We'll have to do this tomorrow night where I'm standing in between you and Kristen.
Oh, yes.
I'm 5'8", guys.
You're pretty tall.
I feel like making a spectacle of how tall she is, which is something she said she's insecure about in the past, is also just like not nice.
Yeah.
That's the fascinating thing about the sex advice content is we're all walking a line with it, and everyone thinks this is where the line should stop. And it's like, you're putting yourself out there with the hope of helping Christian marriage sex lives, and there's not a lot of content out there.
Yeah.
So you're taking risks, and I would just hope that the audience could give you some grace of like, I support you. Oh, you went maybe a little further than I would have gone, but as a whole, well done.
Yeah. I don't really feel like there's that balance, you know?
Well,
is that too much to ask?
That's the
Come
whole
on.
point of this project is like waking people up to see like you don't have to agree with how Bethany Beal does it.
Yeah.
But you can still support the fact that she is pouring into the kingdom, just in a different way than you would or that you feel called to.
And I'm
Then lead by example and show us what that looks like, Paul and Morgan, because you guys have done nothing but be rude this entire time.
sure you could literally spend an hour easily just going over testimonies of there was this Christian couple and they were suffering in their sex life, and you, because it's such a huge part of marriage. Who is more likely to cry?
Bethany for sure.
But you're a crying man.
I am a very crying man.
The crying man descriptor just cracks me up for some reason.
Like, you guys are too happy and joyful.
That's the weird thing, though. It's like
miserable.
Kristen and I have both been through like hardships, you know. Like, I mean,
What, you didn't find a parking space up front?
Oh man.
That's what people think about you.
No, but like people, like just because we don't like, we
Talk a lot about.
Yeah, and like we've both really have, even though it's really hard, we both are like very passionate about like trusting in the Lord during hard times. And so like Kristen, like having to go through 12 years of infertility and miscarriages and all that, like that's really hard. Yeah. Like that like wrecks a lot of people, you know? Or like me in between Davey and Audrey, like 3 miscarriages, and the one that happened like where I was traveling to Ukraine was so traumatic and like so awful, like that sort of stuff. And I'm not complaining about getting married at 30, but like for a lot of single women, like they'll talk about those years before they got married, like how awful and horrible they are and stuff like that. And I think because even though those things were hard for us, we like really find peace and like rest and trust in the Lord.
I don't think anything is wrong with that. I think that's a huge perk of religion and being religious. And if that's you guys, I am jealous. Like that's a beautiful thing. That's one of the things I miss about having. But I can't just, you know, I don't believe it anymore. And so I can't just like return to church and get that feeling back because I just don't believe it. And so that's where I'm at.
And so it's not like faith altering or like we just are going crazy. Like getting angry at God and stuff has just never made sense to me. Like it's, you know, going like the 3rd time I went through the miscarriage, it's not like, God, why are you doing this? Why are you even like playing this trick, you know? Or like, why would you let me get pregnant only to take it away? It's like, I know he's good. And like, I know we live in a fallen world. And so I just understand like, he is my place of comfort.
Sometimes I struggle with the tragedy and you're describing your tragedy, and I just imagine sometimes like horrible situations, and I'm like, it's hard for me to see, and it sounds cliche, but see God in them. Like, like God, if you're really involved in our lives, how could that happen? You're able to not really like go down that.
I don't know why. I mean, so when we were, there's 8 kids in our family, technically 9. So the last one of the lineup, he was born with he had a chromosomal disease.
I'm just leaving this part in, you guys, to give you some background about Bethany. They don't share stuff like this on their channel very much because they're typically sharing advice. And so I just want to share it with you and show you a little bit more about her and who she is.
And he only lived for 8 hours, and we were like, I was like 16 or whatever, so it's like I clearly remember we were all in the hospital room there for, you know, his death, all of that. And it was extremely difficult and so hard, and you know, I was just a sister in that situation. I cannot imagine being the mom, you know, but seeing my parents, how they dealt with that and how they handled that was extremely inspiring. And I still think about that, of just how they didn't get mad at God. They weren't like, we really drew together as a family through that whole experience, and our community really surrounded us. And that's something that even to this day, like, really has impacted me in a positive way, because like now as a mom too, I'm like, that is so hard to go through something like that, to literally lose your baby, you know, after carrying it for 9 months, only being able to be like, literally, you know, the funeral, everything. It was so dramatic and traumatic, but they never like walked away from God. They never, like, they taught us through that experience how to lean into God and how to trust him.
I kind of asked this because it's definitely happened with Morgan and I, and does happen with us. People online like to decide which one they're going to agree with more than villainize the other person. And I was kind of reading comments on a video, and I saw, I hope Bethany's husband finds happiness.
Oh, I've heard that one before.
That's been our story. I hope Morgan finds happiness.
Yes.
And
I think the difference, though, is that people think that Dave is not attracted to women. And so people are, I think those are kind of more hate comments. Like, people are like, we want Dave to go live his best life. People just think that he's like not interested in Bethany or home life at all. I don't agree with making assumptions about that, or like commenting stuff like that and encouraging people to leave their families if they haven't indicated that's what's right for them. Whereas for Paul and Morgan, people think that Paul is abusing Morgan. So again, they lump everyone into these groups of haters, but I think what you have to do if you have an online presence is go, is there validity to this category of comments? Are people assuming that my spouse is gay, and I know that they're not, they're telling me they're not, they say they're happy, they want it, whatever. Like, I'm gonna believe my spouse here, obviously. So I'm gonna lump that into, like, just kind of like these comments that I can't really give any validity to. Whereas with Paul and Morgan, I think they could maybe go to couples therapy and say, look, like, at the very least, you know, we don't think so, but people keep saying that they're noticing these signs of, like, abuse in our relationship. Would you mind helping us work through this and just understand if that's something that could be at play here? Something like that. Like, I think that there is a clear line between hate comments and people who are actually trying to give you feedback that you just don't like.
when you hear it, freedom, when you hear that so many times, it can start to...
Oh yeah, sometimes I feel a little sorry for myself. Yeah, 100%. It's not.
Expound on that if you don't
It ain't king energy, but it's, you know, something.
It's not what?
It's not king energy.
Okay.
It's not.
Dave's not helping his case here at all.
It's
King energy.
already feeling sorry for myself, and then hearing one of those and be like, "You're damn right."
Wow.
I got a man.
Well, but that's a scary thought for me if I were to think, like,
You know,
Morgan's over there
it's
thinking...
possible for someone to feel bad for them, still feel sorry for themselves.
Have you felt that way when you get all these messages of... No, let's be real, like, of messages of you. Morgan, what is it? I hope Morgan finds happiness.
How could either side actually admit to going, yeah, I actually side with these comments that criticize you that I know deeply hurt you? If it isn't something that they've already said before and talked about prior to this conversation, it seems like that's something that you would want to keep private.
I would say that
Please say no. Please say I'm being real. I hope these aren't sticking with you.
We're gonna have a check-in.
Like, Morgan could do so much better, that type of stuff.
No. None of that stuff is. I've never been like. Oh,
And then we're getting
right.
back to you guys.
And none of that stuff about like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
being mentally or emotionally abused. Like
Control.
I'm like, you guys are idiots. Like, I'm sorry, but idiots, total idiots. But I will say there have been times when like maybe someone has said something of like, I'm trying to think.
Oh no. Where's she about to go with this?
What is it?
Well, okay, this is just something that like Christians and haters will
Yeah.
say of like, Paul cuts you off when you talk.
Mm.
Like, he's not like listening. Like, he's not respecting your voice. And
good.
like,
Let
but
it out. Just
they
a big-
like take it deeper, and they're like, it's because he doesn't
Yes,
respect you.
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that's the case, but I am like.
But then y'all talk about it? Like, are you like, why do you cut me off?
There are times when, like, after a video, I'll be like, hey, like, you cut me off a couple times, like, can you chill out? And he's like, you're right, like, I'm so sorry, I'll chill out. And he does a good job of that, if I point it out.
It's just like the way people take it deeper, and they're like,
yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I've never sat around and been like, oh, they're right, I am in a terrible marriage.
That's really too bad to hear, honestly.
He is the villain.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Hey, that's fair. Like, this is it's real life. To me, though, in all reality, like, that is a little bit scary. It's a little bit scary because it's not our friends close to us or people from church. It literally can be like multitudes online, sending DMs, commenting, making videos. So it's just the thought of that in circulation.
The stuff online, I think the part that gets like the comments and all of the messages, like, I'm the villain, you know. And I think the only time it gets frustrating for me is if just being honest, is like when he's like, it starts interacting with them, and sometimes I feel like starts like, oh, like they're actually really nice people and all of this, and almost like it feels like it's now like them against me. And it's less of like he's not upset or mad at me or anything. It's just more like, oh, we should.
Yeah, I think Dave is a lot more open-minded in general, and I think that he's a lot more committed to being intellectually honest. When you're someone that cares about that, you do have to sift through stuff and go, okay, is there validity to this? I'm not going to rule out somebody's feedback for me just because I don't know who wrote that feedback. The person who wrote that feedback under that weird profile and name could be someone who, you know, produces TV shows and is giving me actual valid critical advice. It also could be somebody who forgot to take their meds, which I'm someone that takes meds, so no hate there. But it could be somebody who's like does not know what they're talking about. And so you have to sift through things and figure out what to give credibility to or not. And you obviously can't do that with every single comment. I read as many comments as I possibly can, and I get categories of criticism. And like a big category, for example, is people criticizing me for walking away from my faith and asking me to return to it. I'm not saying that that's not valid criticism, right? Because if I die and I find out there is a God, then that could be seen as valid criticism from people. But that's not criticism that I can take right now because I don't believe in God. I can't force myself to believe in God, and I just don't believe in God. That is kind of a category where it's like, I wouldn't call them haters. They're just people that disagree with me. But that's kind of a category for me. I can read those, and they kind of go into this bucket where it's like, there's not like an action item for me to do on that. Then I get critiques that are about the quality of my videos, and they're the number one reason why my videos have improved, because 99% of the time you guys do know what you're talking about. I'll go look up the terms you're using and I'll be like, oh, they're right. They're definitely right. And so then I can improve. And I feel like if you go back 6 months ago when I started this, I'd never made a video before in my life. You watch those videos, or if you're a member to my channel, some of my members only videos are videos that I made a while ago. So the quality they're more personal, and that's why I shared them as members only and didn't publish them publicly. But you can tell that the editing is like a lot better now. There are a lot of improvements, and hopefully I'll continue to improve. But that's because of the criticism. So that goes into a bucket. If I see 2 comments on a video talking about my audio quality, which happened a lot in the beginning before I had a microphone, I had to take that seriously, and so then I bought a microphone. I feel like Paul, Morgan, and Bethany in this case are kind of lumping all of these categories of anything they don't like into hate comments. And I think Dave is probably closer, even maybe further than I am, to this point where he has these kind of categories. Like bullying is like a not action item comment, because you can't really, I don't think mentally, like I can read through a bunch of bullying comments and like find productive ways to make change based off of that. But if I'm getting valid criticism, like if you go look at Paul and Morgan's comments talking about the emotional abuse, people are not, for the most part, like 90% of them, people are being kind. They're not being mean. They're not trying to condemn Paul. They're just trying to keep Morgan safe. And yeah, I just don't think it's fair to lump everyone into this group of haters. And I think that Dave is more open-minded. And so he's more easily able to do that.
To be sympathetic, but at the end of the day, it's like, in some of these cases, I feel like these people really do want they do want to see our relationship fall apart. Sure. Even though they might be like, we hope you and Bethany stay together, they don't really hope that. Right. And that's kind of become apparent with a lot of these people that it's not. And so I think that's frustrating because I really don't believe they have pure motives or pure intentions or really care about either of us. Right. And so it's, to me, that's frustrating if there is, and this just be like being real. I want to feel like my man is like standing up for me and like he is like, you know, forget them. They're like, why are they coming after my girl? And so when you're like compassionate toward them, it's kind of like, how could you? Yeah, it makes me like I feel bad. Like I choose to, but it's hard.
Yeah, so in order to deal with that, because I don't want to, one, compromise my own integrity by dropping the fact that I think that a lot of these people are not as evil as sometimes we talk about, on the one hand, but I also do want to be a very strong, rock for Bethany and stand up for her as her husband and all that. So typically my solution has been just to not have those ongoing conversations.
It's hard because we do
have different views about this.
I guess it's hard for me if I feel like, okay, you're building relationships, man, woman, I don't care, with people who hate me. I mean, it's like, I can imagine if I'm in your shoes, like it's got to be nice to be the one with that they really like. Mm-hmm. And then if you're feeling frustrated at me for some reason, like, yeah, you are kind of right. It's like, I can imagine if I were in their shoes, whatever, it's got to feel a little bit good to be the one that they like.
Yeah, I think they kind of see.
I think for Bethany, it seems like it's a lot more fear-based that he is going to be swayed by these comments. If he has compassion for them, if he gives it any credibility, then he might start to believe them. And I say this a lot about Paul and Morgan, that they fail to acknowledge the real issues, because if they did, then they would actually have to probably agree that there are the problems that people are talking about in their relationships.
From some of the videos I watched, I think they kind of see you as more progressive in your views and more open-minded, where they would they would look at Bethany and be like, Bethany looks at the Bible and she proclaims what she sees to her following, and it's pretty black and white to her. And Dave is over here kind of looking like the mediator, like he's kind of coming our way. He doesn't see things so black and white. He's a very nuanced man. I think Dave could come our way. They're kind of, I think, rooting for you when they feel like with Bethany, like, she's probably never going to, but maybe we could get Dave.
So Paul and Morgan have been both evangelical Christian and more kind of charismatic Christian denominations. I think what's interesting here is that their worldview is really impacting how they view the haters. I don't think that people in the secular world, and correct me if you guys think that I'm wrong here, because I could be, but I don't think that people in the secular world commenting these things have ultimate goals to force Dave and Bethany and Paul and Morgan to deconstruct and leave Christianity. I don't think that that's the case at all. I think that some people may use the term deconstruct, which to them might land in atheism, but I don't think people mean that when they use that term. I think people are saying deconstruct your views on, like your homophobia, for example. Deconstruct some of your views on purity culture and kind of get to this more healthy place with religion where you're actually loving all people, where you're actually accepting others, where you're actually helping other people. And obviously, I don't know their personal life, but I think that better sums up the feedback for them than people just wanting them to leave Christianity. But because Paul and Morgan grew up evangelical, where you're taught that you need to be converting people to Christ, that the best thing you could do every day is spend all day like planting these seeds about Jesus in people's hearts throughout the day. And, every new friendship, every social outing is an opportunity to reflect Christ and convert people. I think that people that are in that can view the outside world as also having this type of agenda, because they do have an agenda. And I think that's why you hear Christians talking about these different agendas that are going on, the feminist agenda, the liberal agenda, the whatever agenda, because they actually do have this message and this thing that they're trying to push. And so it's hard for them to envision people leaving criticism and not having this ultimate goal in mind.
So I can see how that would sting for Bethany in particular, of like these people, you know, maybe they're not all horrible, but they're not looking out for our marriage.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like they would like to see me. They would love to see you leave me and go off and do something, and they'd love for my life to just like, they don't just dislike my message. Yeah. They don't like me.
That's largely. I think that's largely true.
Yeah. So it's not. It doesn't feel good for me to see you like, you know, trying to like, I don't know, build these relationships as they're proactively telling you like, you know, we want you to have a happy marriage, but we would be, you know, we understand if you need to leave.
Because that was what they were doing with Morgan. Yeah. They were saying suddenly they really liked Morgan. Yeah. They were bashing us for 2 years.
Yes.
Nobody has suddenly liked Morgan, but the criticism has switched from critiquing Paul and Morgan's general fundamentalist beliefs to being concerned about Morgan's physical well-being, emotional well-being, her safety in the relationship. And so that might feel like now people like Morgan because they're not criticizing her, but the reality is that secular people that don't have this agenda that they're trying to push, your ideas are secondary to your literal physical safety. And Morgan, people are concerned, including myself, if you've seen my videos on this channel, are concerned about her. And so that is a pretty big difference, if you ask me.
And then the video gets made about me of being emotionally abusive, and then suddenly they love Morgan and they're saying, Morgan, how much do you need for me to pay you to get out from him, like get away from him? And it's like, wait. Suddenly you're really supportive.
Money?
We could have maybe utilized that.
I would have been like, send me all the money.
But suddenly they're really friendly with you.
Get out? No, it's still stuck, send more.
Right.
Just a little bit more. It's so true though. Yeah, like out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it was all so, for me, it was so clearly, I was just like, you don't give one hoot or holler about me. You love the drama.
I think they love the drama. I think that's a part of it here.
I want to kind of...
I know it's been a year since this, and with her health issues, especially, the comments have changed, but if she still holds this opinion, especially seeing the way the comments are today, I would be shocked because people are genuinely concerned, and I don't know how you could read them and not see that concern pouring out.
There's so much that could be said about
this. Is a lot.
I can see, you know, people who have made videos about us. Cody Cohn, you know, he kind of started this all off with like Girl Define. His video has like 33 million views or whatever. I hope he has a wonderful life. I hope he gets married and has kids, and like I hope he makes lots of money, you know? Like my kids will be very tall, your kids will be very short. But seriously, like I have no desire to like get on some channel and be like, turn Cody Cohn down.
And I totally believe you.
Agree. But so the point is that I feel like there are some people in life, whether they're a fan or a hater or whatever, they approach social media or people they see online, and the ones they disagree with, they like really wish ill on them, and they hope like, and then there are other people who don't do that. And so it's like, my thing is like, the people who are actively on these hater channels or on these Reddits or, you know, it's like they have that gene of like wanting to see people like go down, wanting to see them demonetized, you know, proactively coming against like their sponsors and trying to get them shut down.
I think there's a lot of that energy there, just like
I personally don't want to see these people go down. I want to see them change to be more accepting, more loving, more kind. But I'm not hoping that any tragedy strikes them. And I do think it just is very telling about their view on their followers.
I don't necessarily think it's unique to that group. It is conceivable, I'm not saying that they all do, but it is conceivable that the haters are willing to tell you things about yourself that nobody else is willing to tell you. Unless you have the type of people in your life that will call you out. And a lot of us surround ourselves with people who will not.
I feel like we are wise and we make sure that we have people in our lives to call us out when it's necessary, even if it's one another calling each other out and you two calling.
But did anybody ever call you out for cutting her off before a hater?
Christians, followers.
Yeah, Christians would call you out. Well, there you go.
Several of our like solid followers will be like, "Oh, stop cutting Morgan off."
Well, to be clear here, they're saying they're not haters, but there's still people on YouTube commenting, and what he's trying to point out is in real life, people are not going to be willing to say these things. It's interesting how they're like, no, people really did point this out, but those people weren't haters. It really is just about how they feel about it.
Those comments are helpful. Like, we have people who follow us who share, and even like people who work for Girl Design, like they will share, like our employees, like they'll share honest feedback or thoughts about how things come across, and that's super helpful. Like the people that want to see, like even if they disagree, they want to see you do well or to make it better or to make it wiser. Those, and you can tell in the way they're messaging you. You know,
in general, you shouldn't take advice from people who don't wish you well.
Right.
However, if you have integrity, you should be able to, you don't necessarily have to pay attention to haters, but you should be able to look past the fact that they're haters if they do happen to say something that is true.
Of course, yes, I agree.
If they say something that's true,
Well, I would agree with you, Dave, that even though we have people that would speak into our lives, like we can have blind spots, and sometimes because of the communities that we're around and the people that support us, the blind spots can linger for a while, and sometimes it might take someone who's very far removed from that community to challenge us. Could that be someone off of Reddit or a criticism hate video? Potentially, but in the same vein, man, I really don't want to be spending much time paying attention to those.
I don't think it's worth, I think that, I wish that y'all would more befriend people rather than choosing to view them as the kind of the bad ones or whatever. I do think that there is a road to that. But I think that you have
They all look so uncomfortable. I think that Paul is not used to just having another male energy where he actually has to stand up for himself and gets any level of pushback because Morgan doesn't do it. But Paul looks so uncomfortable, and I'm willing to bet that he makes some sort of joke or says something to emasculate Dave after this because he doesn't have any sort of real rebuttal to give.
Decided to sort of play that us versus them game. I've started down the path of like befriending and like understand, and I'm like, okay, these people aren't just sitting there like with some sort of scary, they're just people. And
are you directing this at their channel and our channel?
I'm directing it at,
which is fine.
I'm directing it at all y'all to the degree that you want to just kind of write off whole groups of the internet. And I get that it's personal. I get that you've received more hate than I personally have.
I think too for like literal mental health, like to try and bridge the gap between the Redditors who literally send me death threats and tell me they are praying that my baby dies.
I don't go looking for commentary on me outside of my channel. I look at my own comments. It is my followers mostly or subscribers and people who engage with my content and have thoughtful things to say. But yeah, if I went onto Reddit, I'm sure that I could find negative things about me. I've had people message critiques of the way that I interview, and I've actually learned a lot from that. But I think the point that Dave is trying to make is that not everybody's a hater just because they critique you. Obviously, what Morgan's talking about is bullying, harassment, hate in this particular instance, but I don't think saying we're worried about your safety because we fear that you're being emotionally or spiritually abused, I don't think that that's hate and harassment. I think that is actually genuine concern.
In my womb, like, I just don't have time to try to bridge that gap.
But no,
that's wicked, but that's not everything.
It's not indicative. It's not indicative of every Redditor.
So, I think the Reddit subthreads are, for my limited interaction or understanding, is full of people who are reacting against all kinds of stuff that both has happened to them and that they have created in their own lives. And the reason why I'm like this is because I am like that in plenty of ways. I'm not willing to just write off whole groups of people because they say unkind things.
So I agree. I'm not writing them off, but I don't think the like online space is the place to do that. When I meet people, which I've met plenty of them in real life, they'll come and say hi or whatever. I like in person, absolutely. I would love to talk to you. I would love to build a relationship with you, but it's just too hard. That's why I think you're right about like people when you're online, people, the lovers and the haters, they don't really know you that well. And that's why I think the biggest impact often comes from our real life relationships. Yeah. And that's why I'm constantly through Girl Defined encouraging people to have real life relationships, get involved in church, all of that. But if I were to meet any Redditors in real life and they wanted to actually have a genuine conversation, like I am absolutely there for that. Like I hope to be able to have conversations with people who've made videos about us. Like I hope to be able to sit down and do stuff like that.
Somebody has to go first. Somebody has to be the first one.
I asked them to do a video with me and they said no, by the way.
To start a process like that.
I agree with you, Bethany, in that in-person, face-to-face conversations with those people who actually want to try and understand where we're coming from. Like we've had conversations with haters who I've sat down with people face-to-face and they've like been genuine of, I do want to know where you're coming from. I don't agree with it and I've maybe commented some nasty things or whatever. Just like really like pushing back or whatever, but like I do genuinely want to know where you stand, and those conversations I think are very good and healthy. For sure. And we walk away still completely disagreeing, but like being like, you're human, I'm human.
Yeah. Does your concept of them, you kind of just answered it, but your concept of them, it sounds like changes. In other words, they're no longer just a, butthole 335.
Did you say butthole?
No. They're now something more than that.
These people are not just, and again, I don't mean every single one, but a good chunk of them are not just, criticizers. They have inflicted very heavy, amounts of pain.
I agree with
I just know for a fact, on them, on us.
Like ruining opportunities, trying to actually make it impossible for me to even be in that space or have any success in that space.
All of that is absolutely ridiculous, and people that do that I think are idiots for doing that when they do that.
I don't know enough about what they're talking about here to really have an opinion on this. If you guys know more about them not having opportunities and stuff, let me know. I know that Paul and Morgan have lost sponsors or don't get as many sponsors because they're religious content, but I mean, it's hard to get sponsors in general, you know what I mean? And it's hard to find people that are going to align with you, especially when you're as controversial as Paul and Morgan are. I think that they could probably have grown into a lot bigger influencers and could receive sponsors if they would just relax a little bit.
Good to hear you say that.
That feels nice.
You like that?
That does feel nice, seriously.
Yes, I'm very sorry that you have gone through that you have faced that. That's really rough.
They sent us a chocolate penis.
What?
Yes, one time in our P.O. box, someone sent us a giant chocolate penis.
It could have been so much worse. I mean, that's actually not that bad.
We did not eat it.
We melted it down to chocolate fondue. I think this might have been the deepest conversation that we've had in a while.
It does kind of take the life out of you. It's like...
That's heavy.
I feel pretty good.
I tell that they're really unsettled. There's a lot of jump cuts, and this obviously was a whole meal. And so I wish that they would release the footage, release the full uncut dinner, because I would personally love to watch that.
into our time with Bethany, we weren't sure what to expect or how the conversations would go. We were not let down. Our day with Bethany and Dave was filled with laughter, shock, and challenging conversations.
Dave and Bethany's marriage surprised and challenged us in many ways we were not used to. They were so different, but clearly committed to one another. They chose to love and sacrifice for one another despite their differences.
One of our goals for filming with Bethany was to help humanize her to the viewers. Like we mentioned earlier in this episode, her presence online receives a ton of pushback and hate. We wanted to show a side of her that you have never seen.
We believe we accomplished that and more. We hope you feel more united with someone you may not see eye to eye with, but can recognize she is a sister in Christ with a heart to honor God.
We can't do this without your support. If you believe in this...
All right, I'm gonna end it there. I don't love that ending. It feels a little bit like they just wanted to make it clear once again that they don't agree with it. They don't really consider them Christians, and they just wanted to point out that they don't like their relationship style. I think that it is pretty rude. I think Paul and Morgan were rude throughout this. Let me know if you guys like this video, if you want me to do more of their 24 hours with. They've done episodes with people like the new Evangelicals. Those would definitely be an interesting watch as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, please like the video, hit subscribe, share, and copy link. You don't have to send it anywhere, I promise. And if you want to leave a comment but you don't know what to say, you can always leave a dove or a white bird, because that's my logo, and I'll probably respond to you with a white heart. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Yes, God loves you so much that he will burn you up for not loving him back. And it's pretty simple, actually, because he created you as a sinner because he loves you and he hates sin. Okay, so he